So if I come to you with the idea that a bunch of people in Silicon Valley are somehow manipulating your behavior into what their preferred outcome is, you're probably going to think, oh, either one, you're full of it. Two, that message is somehow not for me. I'm in control of my own mind, and maybe there's some people out there that are influenced in this way, but I'm not one of them. And that's a fair decision to make, because the way it's presented to us, and a lot of what we see as the objections to the way technology works, is that somehow there's someone there forcing you into behavior that you would not do otherwise. That if you display a couple of characteristics, within a few short, transitions, a few short clicks, a couple of scrolls, you'll be fed into a conspiracy group that ideally tickles your fancies, and that's where you're going to end up, and you're going to now become an extremist, or you're going to be overspending your money, or you're going to end up as a gambling addict, or whatever it is, because this terrible technology has led you there. And that's not what I want to try to share with you or convince you of today. What I want to talk about is technology's capacity to annoy you, and how just by simply annoying you, many of the things that you really care about can be diminished in a way that you're not happy with. And that technology doesn't have to do that. Technology could actually improve a lot of the things that you care about and be a real asset to you. So the way I view this situation, is that it's actually a war. It is actually a war. And that's going to be a pretty big leap for a lot of you to grapple with. The idea that because technology is annoying some of the time, that means it's a war. So let's talk about what war actually is. War is a large-scale attempt by one group to take another group's resources without their consent. You say, no, war's bloody, it's got guns, it's got bombs, it's got a lot of violence. Well, if we go back to the ultimate strategy manual for war, right? Sun Tzu's Art of War, you'll see in there that the ideal form of war, the most effective form of war, is one where your enemy gives up their territory without a fight. Because that's going to conserve as many resources for you as possible. It's going to maximize the morale of your troops, because they're going to think, wow, we're so good that people just run away from us. This is the ideal strategy, right? Today's war is an economic one, right? We want to capture as many dollars as possible. And ideally, not absolutely, but if we're just completely amoral, then ideally, but not absolutely, we don't want to have any blood loss. So we want to take as much money as possible without having to get into any physical confrontation. And for people just to willingly hand this over. And that is the angle that these technologists are coming from. And you say, well, that's still fine because I control my money. I've got my wallet, I've got my cards, I've got my bank accounts, I've got my gold stuffed in a safe, whatever I've got, and I control that. And so these people might want to try this, that, or the other, but ultimately, I'm the one making the decision. If they present me with an offer that I like, well, great. I took that offer and I'm fine with that. And if they lead a bunch of, other people off to gamble too much or waste too much of the money, that's a concern for them. But, I need to look out for number one, unless I feel very into societal meddling, and then I've maybe got to go and try to influence these other systems. But ultimately, it's not a concern for me. Okay, that's fine. So let's take something that is a concern for you. Right? Being nagged, being constantly hassled by people, by organizations, by anyone. So I want you to imagine your ideal work scenario, right? So picture the place where you really like to get your work done. Maybe it's a workshop, maybe it's an office. All right, so your ideal work environment is one where you can kind of work effectively. You've got your tools and equipment handy. The interruption that you have is at a time that's actually convenient to you to kind of refresh your mind and sort of reset things. And it's from things that actually help energize you. Something like a tea or some exercise or a short walk or something like that, right? So it's these things that work for you. Not the same for everyone, but they work for you. All right. Now I want you to take that idealized work environment where you're effective, you're achieving. Maybe it's even more than that. Maybe there's actually people encouraging you and reflecting meaningfully on your work, so you can consider, another point of view and get some ideas about how to improve things. So there's actually some encouragement, some motivation happening as well. All right. So you've got this ideal work environment. You've got your motivation. You've got your tools. You've got your helpful interruptions at a convenient time. And all these things are working together so that on your great days, you do the best work you've ever done. And on your good days, you still do some pretty useful work. And it's all working. And now I want to take this beautiful environment that you've constructed, your ideal work environment, and I want to, piece by piece, do what technology has done to it. So what I want to do now is I want to take some offers for the mall near you, for the retail outlets they have there. And every hour, I want to come and put them on your desk, sneak them under your door, come and deliver them to you by drone if you're in a field, whatever it is. I want to come and every hour I want to bring you some of these offers. Some of these offers to save a few dollars here. And it's not random stuff on the other side of the world. It's stuff that's actually directly relevant to where you live, to where you hang out. And I want to take these offers and I want to give them to you. And to start with, you're like, all right, you just sort of wave them off because they're coming every hour. But it is like a little distracting, right? And then I want to increase the frequency that I'm bringing them to you. So I want to start bringing them to you every half an hour, every 15 minutes. And then there's a new policy. There's a new policy in the company where you're working. And the policy is you're going to be given a secretary. You think, well, great. There's going to be someone to answer the phone, schedule the meeting, run some errands. Oh, there's a catch though. This secretary, you don't really get to set their agenda. In fact, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be going through all of your communications. They're going to be looking at, what you've been texting with your friends. They'll be listening in on a few of your phone calls. They'll be reading your email. And what they're going to do is, how you're getting all those offers every hour, every 30 minutes, every 50 minutes. They're going to start to make sure that those offers are specifically related to what your communications have been about. And they're going to start to deliver those offers to you every minute. So you're sitting there trying to get work done, and every minute, someone's bringing you another one of these offers. Now, maybe they're piling up in your email. Maybe they're piling up in your social media feed for you to look at later. Or maybe they're coming into you real time because you're actually watching a video right now or you're trying to learn something. Now, even if you take the view that this is not going to influence you at all in your decision making, at the very least, it is going to weigh you down and annoy you. To the point where if you've got 1 million companies or 1 billion companies all automating the process of doing this all the time, you're going to either succumb to it, and you say, no, I'm not going to succumb to it. Okay, you're not going to succumb to it. But now how much of your brain do you need to spend on just swatting it away? How many of your neurons do you need to allocate to avoiding being annoyed? And how much resource can they spend to make it worth annoying you? Now let's take an extreme case because the internet's always magnified by this. Let's take some junk food. All right. So junk food, you're going to be looking at a margin of, possibly 80% or more. So let's say there's a convenience store down the road and they've got some junk food. They've got a packet of chocolates available, and it's marked up a lot because it's a convenience store. It's not at a big box store or something. It's a convenience store. And so they're going to sell this packet of junk food for $5. And the production cost of that junk food is 50 cents. Okay, you can imagine whatever it is. A box of donuts, it's a packet of chocolates, some chips, whatever it is. But now imagine that they can actually capture more than 10 seconds of your time every month. In fact, what if they can capture 10 seconds of your time every day, every hour, all right? Well, the truth is they can capture way more than that of your time for $3 or $4. The average revenue per user per year in North America for Facebook is about $40. All right. So every year, every one of their users is resulting in a $40 revenue through advertising. So if you take someone who's addicted to Facebook, spending a couple hours, or probably more than a few hours a day on there, and you go, well, so let's divide that $4 over the year. So now we've got a month of your time. So you take all the Facebook time that you use in a month, and that is now available to that one company if they can get a single sale out of you. So if they can sell you one bag of junk food, it is worth them annoying you for 100 plus hours if you're a heavy user of Facebook. So what does that mean in society's context? It means that if it takes 100 hours, if you can annoy someone for 100 hours to sell one bag of junk food, whereas before, to pay a human to do this instead of paying technology to do it, you could only annoy people for 10 or 15 minutes, right? We're looking at like a 400-500-fold increase in the amount of time we can annoy you per dollar. Advertising has just become way more efficient than it ever was. So we can annoy you a huge amount per dollar. Now let's get back to our discussion about war for a second. So if these companies are trying to harvest as much of your attention as possible, then they're going to be using every means necessary to keep you in front of these, and they can do that profitably, right? At a few pennies an hour. Okay, you're not very valuable to them, but you're valuable enough that they're going to keep trying to do that. So they only want to make, 10 cents an hour, 20 cents an hour of you being in front of that screen. So what are they going to generate to do that? They're going to generate the things that are going to arouse your emotions to the maximum possible extent to put you in front of that screen. So let's go and take Netflix as an example. All right? Netflix, the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings, has said, the only competitor to Netflix is sleep. I really want that to sink in. The only competitor to Netflix is sleep. Well, if the only competitor to Netflix is sleep, then they're going to be sitting there using every possible technique they can to stop you sleeping, because every moment you're not sleeping and watching more Netflix, you are more attached to the product and you're less likely to cancel your subscription. Now, let's reimagine Netflix for a second as if it was built instead of to capture as much of your sleep as possible. What would Netflix look like if the true purpose of Netflix was to actually maximize the amount of your sleep that you get? What would Netflix look like then? So I want you to imagine just the smallest changes to the product. Right? How about Netflix stopped working at 10 p.m.? What would it look like? What would your sleep look like now? Just turn it off at 10 p.m. Hardwired. Can't physically work. Okay, sleep. So let's say Netflix puts a yellow-orange filter on at 8 p.m. because you need to do about 2-3 hours before you go to sleep. Right? So everything starts to develop this colored hue. Right? What would that do for the ability of the population to sleep? Right? Just these two tiny, subtle changes. Now let's imagine another change. A sleep tracking app. Okay, so we get a sleep tracking app where we go, all right, what's your sleeping like? How many hours of sleep you've had? All right, what's your favorite show on Netflix? Well, how about if you sleep really well for a week, you earn yourself an episode. It's like anti-binge watching. Not only are we not going to show you 15 episodes in a row, you only get one episode after you've had a week of great sleep. And then you need another week of great sleep to get another episode. So you could imagine some very simple or some slightly more complex changes to Netflix where actually Netflix is no longer a competitor of your sleep, but is in fact specifically engineered to help you sleep more. And I think if you went piece by piece through every other piece of technology, through Gmail, through Facebook, through YouTube, through TikTok, through anything else, through Instagram, where people are spending a large amount of their time, it is relatively straightforward to imagine subtle changes, simple changes to the interface, to the dynamic, that mean that the goals that you have, who doesn't have a goal to have better sleep, right? Who doesn't have a goal to stay fit and healthy? Who doesn't have a goal to improve the quality of their relationships, to increase their financial output and their financial reserves, to improve their education, to be able to have time to put into their greatest purpose, their spiritual and moral and philosophical purposes, right? These are the goals that all humans share. So if everyone's got these goals, why are these pieces of technology built not to further those goals, but to further other goals? And the answer is, of course, very simple. It's that someone's paying them to do something else. Someone who has their own financial goals is paying Facebook $35 per user per year, in aggregate, right? To diminish the goals that you have because they earn a few extra bucks on some junk food. But we could rewire all these products if instead we were paying them. What if you paid for your social media, for your the videos that you watched, for your news, for everything else? What if you just paid a couple $100 a year for that stuff? And instead of trying to be as engaging as possible, what if instead it was just geared entirely towards maximizing your goals? So you'd go and take a few $100s that you go and put into these products, and then you write down your goals. You say, all right, well, here's my goals. Okay, I want to have this level of fitness. I want to spend this much money as part of my budget. I want to have saved up this much money. I want to be spending this much time with my family. I want to be learning these specific new skills through the year. Right? I want to be spending this much time engaging with spirituality, with philosophy, with morality. Right? So you put in your goals. You go, all right, system, I've given you, I'm now my own advertiser. I'm now my own advertiser to myself, and I want to spend my own influence engine, and I want all this vast power of artificial intelligence, all these supercomputers that are trying to subtly shift my behavior and annoy me and bother me to go and do something someone else wants to do. I want to buy them. I want to buy them for the same price that the advertiser pays for them, which is a few $100 a year for the lot. All right, so I want to spend a few $100s a year on the lot, and I want now all of those machines to enhance the goals that I have for myself. That's the future that I care about helping make happen. So I want to promote everyone who's working on that. The company that I'm putting together is working on these ends too. The important thing to know about this is that you can't just go and take the existing products. You can't just go and take YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all the rest of it and just go and subtly shift them to be like this. No, because they have been engineered from the ground up with one metric, which is engagement. All right, so you can't go and fix that. You can't go and undo all of that. They've been engineered from the ground up with engagement. So we need to completely change the way they look. The databases are still valuable. I don't want to go and get rid of every YouTube video. There's so many things in there that help me learn hundreds of different skills. But when I go there to learn a skill, I don't want to be distracted with funny videos about whatever. I don't want to watch 50 videos about that skill. In fact, for every additional video that I want to watch, I want to consciously go, yes, I would like to go and dedicate another 10 or 20 minutes to figuring out what's going on in that next video. All right? I do not want to be just sort of led there like without thinking about it. I don't want it to just continue on like a TV show, like an X-Play. All right. In fact, I kind of want an ad pop up and go, all right, great. Have you got the information you need? Do you have the information you need? Because now it's time to go back to your project. And so then I've got to constantly, well, actually, I do actually need to learn one more thing. Or no, I've got it. I've got what I need. And now I'm going to go back to the project. And they go, great. Do you want a little inspirational kick and a bit of music to send you on your way? Sure. Let's go and play the theme from Rocky. Have David Goggins shout at me and say, buddy, it's time to get moving. Great. All right. That'll be really good. And then I'll go and get on with my project. Wonderful. All right. That's what technology could do. There's nothing stopping it doing it on a technical level. There's just a business model that makes it difficult to push you away from the screen when people are paying to maximize the amount of time you're spending on the screen. So instead, you pay for the technology and you pay for it to maximize your goals. And now there's every reason in the world for that technology to push you away from the screen and back towards the goals that you actually have. So that's what it means to take charge. It means that when you are the person paying for the interruptions and influence on your time, that they're going to be for your benefit, instead of when someone else is paying for the interruptions and influence on your time. Right, so going forward, what we're going to be working on is having a look at everything out there from videos and news articles and podcasts to other pieces of technology, and breaking it down piece by piece and seeing, their perspectives on these influence engines and or the actual influence engines themselves and how they've been built to change your thinking. Now, I'm hoping this is actually going to give you some greater insight into why these systems have been built the way they are. But even more importantly, we don't want to just move from a -1 to a 1 where we filter out more of this junk. We want to move to a 10. We want to take the power of technology from being a force of distraction in many instances into to being the bicycle of the mind that Steve Jobs envisioned when he brought about the personal computing revolution. If you would like to comment on anything that we've said today, you can send us an email. You can comment in the technology below. You can also ask us to cover any particular topic. If you've seen a movie or a piece of technology that you think is particularly effective in solving some of these problems or in creating them, we'd like to hear about it so we can make sure that it's part of the conversation going forward. Thanks for joining us today. See you next time, and take charge.